Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laid Back Life podcast, where we talk about how to love life, entrepreneurship, and improve daily. I'm your host, Jordan Ostroff, and today's episode is a solo episode. Why? Because I want to talk about my story, specifically the fact that I work 3 days a week and why working less actually made everything better, obviously for my life, but also for my business as well. I don't know how many of you can relate to I don't know if it's my favorite story or my least favorite story. So I opened up my firm in 2015 and immediately did pretty well. Like I generated about $300,000 to $400,000 a year in referral business. I was like, hey, this will be great. I'll hire a marketing company. I'll hire staff. We'll blow this thing up to a multi-million-dollar firm. And instead, it did not go that way. I ended up with more, but it was more problems, more headaches, more hours wasted. So when my wife and I set out to have a child, through all of this, it was really, really tough. Like it took us a year of struggling for her to get pregnant. She actually had an appointment scheduled for getting checked to make sure everything was okay. And thankfully, like that was the time that she found out she was pregnant with my son. And so she took this hot sauce bottle and wrote something like, you know, you're a hot daddy on it to show me, because I love hot sauce. I put it on everything. And I was super happy, obviously, right? Like I always wanted to be a dad. We had, like I said, had been trying for a year. And after, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds, it didn't feel like much. I immediately got hit with the reality of we were both working 60, 70 plus hours a week. We were both miserable. I was drastically overweight. We were $200,000 in debt with the firm. Like it was just not a good situation. It was a dumpster fire, right? And now like someone was going to hand us a baby. Well, the hospital was going to help us birth the baby and then hand it back to us for us to have extra responsibility, right? And so I'm really thankful for that situation, obviously, but also really thankful for that terrified moment giving me the clarity to change what I was doing and refocus on having a great life. Like it really came down to that moment. I was like, there's no way I could show up the way I want to be as a dad for this kid with what's going on. So that led to me committing to running the business instead of being a lawyer, and ultimately led to me working 3 days a week so that I could raise my kid the other days, right? And the crazy part about it is I did this, I can't say selfishly, right? I did it for my kid, but I did not expect this to have the same amazing impact on my staff and my firm that it ended up having. Like, I don't want to say their position was meaningless, but I certainly was like, hey, look, if we go down, I'm at least going to be a good father. I'm at least going to show up for my kid, all those things. And I didn't want that to happen, obviously. And it didn't happen. Like, it really made things better. The issue is like that working harder, longer hours, more nights, more weekends, all that stuff. It really forces everything to be essential to you. And at some point you become the bottleneck because there just isn't more time, right? Like it's one thing to take on a BNI group. It's one thing to take on a case outside your normal practice area, outside your normal geographic area, whatever, and say like, hey, I need the money.
There comes a time in most firm owners' life where they're ready to make that switch, where it's no longer about survival. It's about how to thrive. It's about how to have the practice they've always dreamed of and the life that they've wanted to live forever. That's what I help people do. I've done it myself, and I've worked with dozens, if not hundreds of other firms to help them implement similar systems. So if you're tired of doing everything and not knowing your numbers and having no idea where your next case will come from and worrying about how to make payroll, and you want to get over those things, click the link below and let's reach out to see how we can work together to help you achieve those goals.
At some point, you don't have that extra time. You become the bottleneck. I became the bottleneck. And it's awful because my time is not scalable. We all have 168 hours in the week. There's no way to scale a specific person. No person is scalable. A system is scalable. A business is scalable. A software is scalable. A person is not. And so I really needed something that forced me to put a value to my time so that I would not be responsible for everything, right? Like on paper, I was productive, but really I was scattered. I was tired. I was reactive. Reactive to everything. Like it just was awful. The truth is, the more I worked, the worse the business performed without me. And then from being tired and being burned out and being miserable, the more I worked, the worse the business performed with me as well. It was not a feasible situation to continue in. And so, look, I hope if the negative part of this sounds like you, we can get you to the positive without you having to have the realization forced upon you with a child. Hopefully you can learn from my lesson. We're also going to dive into the benefits of all this, and we're going to dive into 10 tips on how to get there so that you can leverage some of my mistakes to help you. So the biggest thing for me was having this time constraint made me have to get really specific about what I was going to do, what I was not going to do, and then how that stuff that still needed to happen would get done. Unlimited time for me created lazy decisions or no decisions or procrastinated decisions. Limited time forced clarity. These are the things I need to do. These are the things that somebody else needs to do. These are the systems I need to create to make sure those things are done. Those kind of things. You know, that if I worked the extra hour and just did it, that could help me delay building the system, making the decision, empowering others, because I had more time, right? I could just work into the night. I could work into the weekends. I could take those things on. So this started out really as an experiment. Maybe that's the wrong word. It started out as I was like, hey, the most important thing to me is going to be being a great dad. So that's going to be the priority. The business is going to come second. And thankfully, while the business did not come first, it really benefited the business way more than I expected, right? So I had to intentionally reduce my work week. And I had, I don't know, a 6-month window, a 7-month window on this from when my wife told me she was pregnant until when my son was born. It wasn't something I could do as a reward. It wasn't something I could make an incredibly long checklist on, right? It wasn't something that I had an unlimited amount of time. We had a deadline. It was unknown at the time. It turned out to be March 2nd of 2018, but it was unknown at the time. It forced me to figure out what those quick wins were. And so I knew for me, the biggest thing was to stop taking on new cases as soon as I could. I was still going to finish most of the cases I had already taken on. The people working with me, I didn't have the systems in place to translate it to an attorney, to pass on the information, all those things. But I knew that was the biggest thing for me. So stop taking on new cases as soon as possible, and then start building the systems for other things to happen. So how can I stop doing low value work? How can I start making faster decisions? How can I build these systems instead of resolving the same problems over and over again? And ultimately, how could I empower other people, right? It's not about working less. I was going to end up working less, but I needed to think about working differently. I needed to think about building an actual business instead of having a job that I hated. And look, I will say the benefit for me is we had a decent sized firm at the time. Like we got up to about 15 people. I don't remember exactly how many people we had at that time. It might have been 12, it might have been 14, something along those lines. We had a decent amount of people, but the problem was I kept being the bottleneck, right? Like instead of having a real organizational chart of hierarchy, a pyramid or whatever you want to call it, we had a bullseye, right? Like I was at the center and everything else came back to me, and I sent the things back out and they came back and all arrows were pointed at me. And that was miserable for everybody. It was certainly miserable for me, but it was not good for everybody else. So the benefit of fewer days was it created those trade-offs, right? I could not do everything. I had to do the right things. Those systems replaced my heroics. I couldn't just sweep in and grab the case from the attorney who wasn't doing a great job on it, or grab the overload off of a paralegal or whatever it was, right? Like I needed to have the system in place. It forced me to have to delegate. And I got to be honest with you, I don't have a problem letting other people do things, but I used to do it as abdication. God bless my first employee, Andrew Abreu, who was a law student at the time, who's now a great lawyer, he does not work for me, but he is still a great lawyer. And I was just like, hey man, $10 an hour way back in the day, like just do things, right? Like you figure out e-filing. I don't know how to do it. You figure this out. And he did. And he ultimately ended up working for me as an attorney for a while until he moved to another part of Florida that we just couldn't generate enough work along those lines. But like this was not my big wake up call, right? My wake up call was I could not do that. Like it was amazing that I was able to find that great law student, now attorney. Not everybody's just going to figure those things out. So instead of abdicating those things to him, I learned how to delegate, right? And to be honest, I'm still learning how to delegate, but I definitely got a lot better at it, right? Like the benefit of McDonald's, the thing I love about McDonald's, it's not the food. It's not the best burger I've ever had. It's that when my family did a 13-month cross-country road trip, something only possible based upon a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, there were cities where there was nothing but a McDonald's, right? Like we ate McDonald's in all of these like small towns across a lot of America. I don't know, let's say 15 times over the course of a year, just because there was no other option. And you know what? That burger was consistently the same mediocre McDonald's burger everywhere. Sometimes it was cooked by a 15-year-old kid. Sometimes it was made by a 30-year-old employee who had been there for a long time. Sometimes it was made for somebody older than me who had worked at McDonald's for decades. The burger was the same across everything because the system was the same, because the quality control of everything was as good as it could be, right? It was amazing to me to see that impact in downtown Orlando, well, we didn't go to McDonald's in Chicago, but in some random town I'd never heard of, in, just outside of Winslow, Arizona, which but for the Eagles song I would know nothing about. Things like that. Like it was crazy. It all goes back to systems and delegation, right? And then ultimately I figured out people rise up when you step back. And to be fair, the right people step up. So having core values in place was huge. Finding the right people was huge. The right people step up when you step back, because the right people, to me, the rock stars, those all-stars, those amazing people that you want being the face of your firm, don't want to be micromanaged, but also they don't want you to abdicate everything, right? They want to find that benefit of like, hey, here is the big picture. Here's the system I created. How can you make it better, right? Like I'm giving you the freedom to make this system better. They will grow under taking ownership. And I wasn't ready to hire the right people when I was micromanaging everything at 80 hours a week. Come to find out, I had a lot of those people on the team who stayed with me for, I don't know, whatever reason. They could see the future. I'm not sure. And then, of course, like you become the CEO instead of this firefighter, right? And I go back to, I love Rachel McGarry's presentation where she talked about this. I love this concept of like working in the trenches as the firefighter, constantly putting out fires. That's who I was, and it was who I did not want to be. Especially, at the time we were still mostly criminal defense. A lot of the cases had emergencies. So how much worse for a client who's in an emergency if there's a fire at the office? Metaphorically, thankfully, never literally, as far as I know. Although there was a story about a mini fridge that we can no longer have mini fridges at an office I did work at because of that. You have to stop putting out the internal fires, right? Like you will get cases that have enough fires in them, that have enough issues, that have enough emergencies. You have to make sure you're not also putting out fires at your own office. So the vision, the strategy, the culture, the decision-making, the task lists, the automations, like all of those things help make sure things are running smoothly internally so you can do the best job externally on the cases. Here's what I hear from so many attorneys, right? When I talk to my coaching clients at the beginning or potential coaching clients, if you're trying to wait until the business is calm to work less or to build these systems or to do this delegation, you're never going to get there, right? Like the concept of next week when things slow down, next month when things slow down, they will never slow down unless you put something in place to make that happen. Calm comes after you already have the constraint, not before it. There's a quote I love. People say it's Albert Einstein, insanity is doing what you did before and expecting different results. I don't think Einstein ever said it, but I love that concept, right? Like if you have looked at your calendar and hated it every week for the entire time you've had your firm, things are not going to get smoother tomorrow unless you make the changes. So how do we make those changes, right? 10 tips to move towards a 3-day work week. Number 1, Pick the days first. Don't debate the feasibility of it. Just choose the days and let reality adjust. For me, it has always been best for Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday lets me align the rest of the team. Wednesday's usually just a convenient day. Wednesday and Thursday tend to be convenient for everybody. People are working in those days. It's the middle of the week. It's easy to get people on a calendar. Friday was terrible because a lot of people cut off the second half of Friday or are half checked out already. So when I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I couldn't get enough done on Friday. I couldn't get anything that involved other people externally from my team the same way I could on a Thursday. And then also I was able to get the long weekend. So I can totally see people doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But for me, I like the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday because I could align the team one day sooner coming into it. Thursday's end of day Thursday is basically the same as Friday for anything that happened at the quote unquote end of the week. I still got a long weekend. And then if there's ever a holiday that canceled Monday or Thursday or something like that, I could pick up Tuesday. Otherwise, it was nice to like get in for a day and then have a day back on Tuesday. This was really great when I worked with my wife and we had a young child because I would take my son on Tuesdays and Fridays. She would take my son on usually Mondays, although she'd have him like at the same all team meeting, and Thursdays. My parents would come every Wednesday, every other Wednesday, stuff like that to free us up time. So yes, obviously I'm very blessed. I have an amazing wife. I have really helpful parents. I have in-laws who came down and spent time with us as well. Not everybody's going to have that. I get it. Hopefully, though, you're not listening to this having a child coming in the next 4 months. So you're sort of arbitrarily picking days. Think through what makes the most sense. If you really dread Mondays, don't pick Monday. But for me, I couldn't get enough networking, enough external meetings, enough things resolved on Fridays. So that brought me to Thursday. And then I like the Monday alignment. So you could pick Monday through Wednesday, Tuesday through Thursday, whatever days, doesn't matter. Pick the days. And then force yourself to follow the days. So block off your calendar for the other days, go into Lumatics, Calendly, Acuity, and stop your schedule from booking you on those days. Really make sure you are honoring it. Tell your team not to book you on those days. Look ahead the next 4 to 6 weeks and reschedule anything that can be easily rescheduled off of those days. Like really jump into it. I'll talk about this more in a moment. And then define CEO work versus worker work versus lawyer work. So for me, the easiest thing was I was doing almost a full-time lawyer job. So that's why I say I did not take future cases. And so I exchanged my lawyer hours for CEO system building boss hours. And then that over the next 6 months got me in a position where my son would be alive. And then ultimately, I'll be honest with you, I had to cheat every now and then. Like if he was taking a nap on a Tuesday or a Friday, I might knock something out. I might review something. I might build the system then, things like that. But I forced myself to lock in the time as much as possible with all of the essentials. And you do that with a time audit, right? I talk about a time audit 1,000 times. Audit your time for 2 weeks. We've got the form. I'll send it to you. It's free. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. AI is doing some wonderful things now. There's programs that will track your time. You can pop it into ChatGPT or some other LLM, have it give you the feedback on what's CEO work versus lawyer work versus salesperson work versus marketing work versus, whatever it looks like along those lines. You're trying to get off of your plate, because ultimately, if you're going from working 50 hours a week to working 3 days a week, let's call it 25 hours, 24 hours, 3 8-hour days, you have to get rid of 25 hours of work. So what are you going to keep? What are you going to get rid of? That's the biggest thing. One question I think for myself is, if someone else could do it as well as I can or better, I should not be doing it. I hate if somebody else can do it 80% as well as you. You should delegate it. I hate it. I think that's really defeatist. If something does not need to be done as well as you are doing it, that's one thing. But I would hope that you are doing things the way that you think they should be done. So 80% is not going to be acceptable. Now, that being said, your paralegal might be able to write a motion 80% as well as you, and now you can save yourself a bunch of time doing that other 20%. But honestly, if you're really, really if you're really honest with yourself, if you really think through your limitations, you will find people to do things better than you. For me, I don't mind phone calls, but I hate just sitting on the phone as somebody else like dumps on me. And I don't necessarily mean that emotionally, right? It could just be brained up with the situation. I don't have a ton of patience for that. Like, I want to have the conversations about the strategy. I want to have the conversations about the coaching. That's why I'm a coach and not just a salesperson, right?
The thing that I do with my clients the most is a time audit. We have them track their time for 2 weeks in either 15, 30, or 60-minute increments, depending upon the time of day. And then from that, we can then look at what are the things that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing. How do we free up that time to do the things that they aren't doing and should be doing? I want to give you this time audit for free. You can click the link below. Please, please, please do it. And here's the thing, if you've never done this before, you might get a couple days in and immediately realize that there are things that you were spending a ton of time on that you need not be. Great, stop doing the time audit, fix those things, and then come back and start doing another 2-week time audit. Why 2 weeks? Because nobody has ever had a normal 2 weeks ever in the history of time. So that's the right length of time for us to get a pretty good idea about what are the things going on in our lives so that we can make the right changes to ultimately live the life we want.
So I found people that did those things better. I found people that had immense emotional quotient and could listen to our clients for a very long period of time and then book them for a 15-minute meeting with me or one of the lawyers to talk about the specifics of the case with a series of notes instead of needing the dump, right? I found lawyers who were way better motion writers than I was. I found intake people who were way better at sales than I was. I found people who were better at researching. I found people who were better in graphic design and editing videos and all this stuff. And I let them do their thing. They did it better than me. And usually they did it cheaper than I would have at the point that I valued my own time. And then I could focus on the other things, some of that being rest and recharge, but a lot of that being the super high level networking, the super high level decision making for the firm, those kind of things. So that's tip number 2 is really defining the CEO work and then working towards it. Number 3 is time boxing everything. So I talked about this from the standpoint of Lawmatics, Acuity, Calendly, really having the time and telling your team and making sure they're not booking you for those things. As you get through this, you want to actually do that better. So at this point, if you have my normal Lawmatics link, you can't even book with me on Wednesdays because now I've time boxed most of my deep work for Wednesday. So even though I'm still working Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can't even get on my calendar for Wednesday. Now, obviously I've got recurring coaching clients. I've got some other meetings on there, but my normal booking link doesn't even have that time because I've time boxed away from it, right? Or time blocked or whatever you want to call it. The human brain cannot multitask, like just flat out. It is not something we can do. So stop trying to multitask, focus. You need to understand what kind of person you are. For example, I send out a newsletter every week. I write a newsletter every single week. It's not the same newsletter that goes out, but I have so many ideas that it's easier for me to like drip a newsletter for a half an hour every week. There are other things that I do a lot better in one block, like employee evals. I'm so much better taking all of my employee evals and having them in one entire day and just being in employee eval mode. And so when it comes to these time blocks or these time boxes, you need to think about the things that are going to be a box weekly or you're going to batch them in tasks. I like producing video in batches if it's me as one person. If I'm interviewing somebody else, I like doing it in different weeks because I like being different. I like the book that I just finished reading influencing my questions instead of having like 4 or 5 podcasts in a row where I'm thinking similar things. Same thing with the newsletter where I'm thinking similar references and stuff. I like spacing those out, but then I want to review, a ton of documents for my team all in one shot. I want to do my employee evals all in one shot. I have the things that I want to do one day, once a month, or employee evals. We do them 3 times a year. But think through what's going to end up being time blocked together, batched, and what are the things that you're just going to hold that time. So like I have an 8:30 meeting with my executive assistant every Monday. Then at 9 o'clock, the whole team gets together. Those things are every week. And then I write my content and perform it and do other videos and stuff until noon. Then sometimes I have a networking lunch, or I have coaching with my clients, depending upon what week it is. Like, those are my time blocks. And then there's other things that I like just knocking out a whole day. If I'm creating new digital products, I love knocking out like 4 or 5 digital products in one day, at least, pushing them forward. Because that way I'm in that same mindset. I'm not switching what my brain is thinking through, as opposed to, again, with the interviews, with the writing the newsletter, with the external content that you see on and on. I like doing those more staggered because I'm thinking different things. I'm focused on different things. I'm in the zone pretty easily on those things, but it'll be, what's the most recent book? What's the most recent podcast I listened to? Like, those things will influence me. They'll sound different. All right. That was a long-winded way to get us to task number 4. Create a never do again list. Every repeated annoyance becomes a system or a handoff to somebody else. So, full disclosure, I was a prosecutor before I opened up my own firm. And we had a program, I don't remember what it was called, but it would automatically e-file. At least that's what I thought, because I just clicked a button and then things magically got e-filed. So when I opened up my own firm, I was like, oh, this will be great. I can just find some other program that will automatically e-file. Come to find out, me clicking that button just automatically created a task for however many people in our office were tasked with e-filing everything. And then they just went down the list and e-filed them as quickly as possible. So when I opened up my own firm, thank God, my wife was not at the same office as me. She was a public defender before I opened up my firm, and she knew how to e-file. And oh my gosh, at least at the time, maybe it's still that way, maybe it's not. In Florida, e-filing was so obnoxious. You had to figure out which county you're in. You had to look up the case. You had to confirm that you were the attorney. You had to click the file stuff. You had to upload the document. You had to review everything. Like 47 clicks. And I'm sitting here like, but I used to sit in my office as a state attorney, and one button, wham, it was e-filed, right? Like, I never want to e-file again. And at this point, I have not for a very long time. So thank you to my executive assistant, my paralegals, my interns, whoever it was that is doing e-filing for me at different times. That was my first moment. I mean, way before I had this realization, I was just like, e-filing is not a good use of my time. So going back to hiring that law student, again, shout out to Andrew Abreu. I was like, hey, man, e-filing. Here's a video of me doing it. Now it's on you. E-file those things. Let me know if I send you too many things to e-file. But the benefit of something like that was he could do it at any time, right? So if he had class with a 2-hour break, he could knock out some e-filing in between if he didn't need to do more important things. But it was an easy thing that, as long as it was done within, 48 hours, we were pretty good to go. That being said, tip number 5, document one, save forever. So that video, right? You can use Loom, you can use Google Meet. I don't remember how we sent this one, but that is so much better than explaining things over and over again. And especially, like, we're in this digital world with all these programs. Screen share it, go through the programs, make the clicks, hand it to somebody else. I've got my 7 steps for a system. That's most of them. Excuse me. And then the best one is number 7. Anytime the video changes, the person responsible films the new video. So when Google updates where the button is, when Lawmatics adds some functionality and changes the color of some of the buttons, somebody who does that part of it films the new video, and now we're good to go. And then, anybody else can alert them, hey, there's a new video, this needs to change, we need these updates, this program's different, those kind of things. And it goes back to them to do it. So now I don't have to be the one keeping 1,000 videos up to date at this point. All right, number 6, empower with outcomes, not instructions, right? Tell people what success looks like. Let them figure out how. Huge caveat. Ethics, lawyer ethics. Make sure you are specific about your ethics. We have a specific duty to supervise and provide certain information, and certain people cannot provide legal advice. So you need to put those constraints in place really well. For example, we have like sample questions the client will ask, like, what do I think the resolution will be? My staff is supposed to and does consistently give them hey, I'm not a lawyer, I can't give you legal advice. Sometimes, that being said, we had a case that was similar that resolved for X, but you need to speak to the lawyer about it, whatever is ethically allowable. But we have that specific script. I wrote that script the first time, and that's one that like every time it gets updated, I need to review the script because I want to make sure I'm following my ethics. So anything that has that, instead of me having to build the system, I am reviewing the updates to the system. So this way I am still supervising, I'm still aware of the system itself. And obviously I'm still, or other lawyers are supervising the staff from that standpoint so that we're following it. But otherwise with marketing, hey, I'm looking for 5 more law firm owners who run law firms in the just under 1 million range, who want to get over 1 million, who have some reason for it. Sometimes it's, they're about to have a kid. Sometimes it's their kid's going to school and now they can work more hours and they're ready to grow their firm again. Sometimes it's they're bringing the kid into their firm. Sometimes it's, hey, they're tired of being overweight while having this business. How can we incorporate that into it, right? Like, here's the reasons. Go find me those people, marketing team. Go run ads to that. Go create a playbook for that kind of person that talks to their need that hopefully would then hire us, right? Like, I don't need to give them the specifics of how to get there. I can be really clear about what I want, what types of clients I want at the firm, at the coaching company, and let them run wild with it. Obviously, again, ethics, so they're not going to be cold calling potential car accident people or reaching out to them within 30 days or, yada, yada, yada. All right, number 7, kill or pause low ROI projects. You need fewer initiatives and better execution on it. And let's be real, I'm telling myself this for the 1,000th time, just as much as I'm telling you for the 1,000th time. There are still things that I do, right? Like, as you're listening to this, we are closing down the Luau, our online group community, and merging it with my other Facebook group community, Solutions for Lawyers by Lawyers. We're going to take the Luau name. We're going to take the stuff that did work, put those together. Why? Because we could not execute on multiple Facebook groups the way that we wanted to provide value to people, etc. So we're merging them, right? We're killing that stuff off. That's a lot easier to do when I'm not willing to commit to taking on another 4 hours a week to do the work that needs to happen for the other group. From the law firm standpoint, that was us cutting back and then getting out of family law way back in the day, cutting back and then getting out of business law way back in the day, and then ultimately getting out of criminal law for 100% PI, right? Like, we looked at what was our better ROI in a money standpoint and in an energy standpoint, right? Like, what were the cases we enjoyed working with? And the thing that I always tell people about what I love most about PI is I'm helping the same person I was helping as a criminal defense attorney, but I don't have to shake them down for money. So I get the benefit of working with some amazing people who have been overlooked by society, who have been downcast, who have been whatever it looks like, without having to shake them down for money that they don't have to pay me for legal services, as opposed to getting paid by the insurance company, right? Like, I enjoy that part. So it's not just ROI from a truly monetary basis, but from a happiness basis, from an energy basis, from an inputs to outputs basis. So that was a lot easier for me when I was not going to commit to the time, because in the past, having a child, or pre my wife telling me she was pregnant with our child, it was really easy to just say, hey, I'll take on the 2 hours a week that this takes. Now I don't have that opportunity. So I really have to value my time. And it's amazing when you value your time with these low ROI projects, because then you start saying, hey, it's not worth me cutting my lawn. And then you find somebody who will cut your lawn way better than I ever could for cheaper than it would cost me on my hourly basis. And then that person might also send me business, right? So cutting a lot of these ROI things, having a housekeeper, having somebody for my lawn, having dry cleaning help, whatever it is, all these vendors that I was using or decided to use now that I actually valued my own time could also become potential referral sources, could also send us business. And oh my gosh, $200 a month for my lawn to get cut is $2,400 a year. I have paid that or more for a personal injury lead without getting my lawn cut, right? Way better than I could, without getting all this stuff handled so I don't have to do it, without saving me all of this time for me versus me cutting my own lawn. These things happen over and over again. And because I had the limit of time, because I wanted to spend more time with my son and with my wife and do fun things, it was really helpful towards saying no to me doing things, finding the right person to handle those things, and then ultimately hoping that that turned into referrals and business. Not always, it doesn't always do it, but on the whole, I have generated more in work from vendors that I use consistently on my personal life than I have spent, or it's really close, let alone the benefit of them doing it better, let alone the time savings for me, let alone what I did instead, etc.
168 hours. That's what all of us have every week. It's interesting to me how many times I talk to firm owners who are struggling to do more, to make more marketing efforts, have more lunches, handle more cases, but ultimately none of us are living a shorter day where we can just create more time. So how do we do that as a business? We can scale up time by hiring more people. We finally created an awesome system, our complete hiring process. We're going to share with you how to incorporate AI and other technology into the hiring process to make sure that you have the best chance to hire the right person. So if that's something you struggle with, click the link below, check out our complete hiring process, and let's get your law firm back on track.
All right, getting towards the end. Number 8, build default decisions. So default decisions, right? Like think about the things to systematize the decisions you will make over and over again with the thought process. I'll give you my most recent example. Earlier at the end of 2025, I took my dad to Iceland, and it's the first overnight red-eye flight I had taken in, I don't know, 4 years, just because we took a the road trip. We were driving, we flew back from LA. Maybe the farthest flight isn't terrible, LA to Orlando, right? Like we didn't have some of these crazy trips. Normally I like the aisle because I hate having to ask somebody else to move and sliding over them and all that. I'd rather them inconvenience me. It's not a problem. I will get up, I will stretch my legs, I will move my feet out, whatever it is. I don't want to inconvenience you. That being said, on the red-eye flight, I was falling asleep into the aisles. So I had to update it with my team, right? Like, hey, so if I am doing an overnight red-eye, and I explained to them what that meant from specific rules, right? Like if we cross over midnight in where I'm going to zip code, time zone wise, or where I'm coming from time zone wise, I want the window seat because I want to try to sleep. Am I ever going to sleep? Probably not. But I want to try. I want the opportunity to lean against the side of the plane. And to be extra anal, I normally sleep on my left side instead of my right side. So I requested an A seat on the left on that side of the plane if they can do it. Can't always make it happen, but now we have that, right? That's something that's going to happen again. And I don't want to have to think about the decision. It's in the instructions for them when they're booking a flight. They can go down the list. That being said, not everything needs to be systematized. This was one that's important enough to me and will happen that we did it. The rule that I see comes out of Cal Newport's A World Without Email. He talks about the 1 to 30 rule. If you can create the system and delegate it in 1/30th the time it takes you to do it, you should do it. Or if you're going to do the task more than 30 times, you should do it. I don't know the methodology behind it. It's the only time I've seen that specific number that makes it easier for me to do it. And so, for example, I expect that my state taxes for my business will have to be paid more than 30 times. So we have a video and we have a system. At the same point, I don't expect that we are going to move offices 30 plus times. So I don't have the same rigid system for moving an office. It was really helpful for me to figure out what was worth it based upon those things. So I hope you'll keep that in mind, the 1 to 30 rule. It's worked out well for me. And again, I don't really know what the thought process is behind it, but the number has been helpful to me. So I would suggest following that or something similar to it. All right. Number 9, real talk. If you're going to work only 3 days a week or take all Fridays off, whatever your specific outcome from this podcast is, you need to protect those days off aggressively. If the boundary is soft, it will get violated. And I want to be very clear, if you're anything like me, it's not that my staff is going to violate the boundary. It's not that my spouse is going to violate the boundary. It's that I am going to violate the boundary. I am going to say, it's okay this one time. It's okay that one. Oh, we can make an exception for this case, right? Oh, my friends. So that's why I like designing a system to make it idiot proof, or at least idiot resistant. So if I'm booking everything in Lawmatics to trigger all the awesome and amazing automations that it does, but I want to book something for Friday, I can't do that the same way. So then it becomes a question of, is it worth me breaking the system to violate my own rules to move things around? And sometimes it is. But it's worth doing that a lot less frequently than it would be if I could just click the same button and pick Friday instead of picking Thursday. Voila. I have put enough difficulty in place to try to not be my own worst enemy. And I suggest the same for you, protecting those days off. And I'll be honest, I have we've got a rule, right? So like if my kid's school calls, put it through to me. I don't care what meeting I'm in. I guess check with the school first. Like, are they trying to talk to me? There's something going on with my kid. Great, put it through. If there is legit, I have not had a fire at the office. I hired an executive assistant who her previous office had flooded and destroyed everything, and she had couldn't get a hold of the boss, and ended up like going into the building to recover what she could. I was like, in that one, call me. Don't care where I am. Don't care what time it is. Don't care what if the office is flooding or it's on fire, call me. Please, I want to be the kind of person that is going to try to help out. Obviously, if I'm halfway across the country, that's tough. But if I'm at my house with my kid, we're going to get in the car and drive the 15 minutes to the office to help everybody get out of a burning building or save the computers or, whatever is safe based upon the situation. So have what those emergencies are in place, and then ultimately work with people that are okay with those, right? Like if I was sitting there with a coaching client and I said, oh my God, I need a moment. It's my kid's school, and they had a problem with it, they would no longer be a coaching client, which, knock on wood, that was me knocking on the wood desk. I am really lucky because I put out there these kind of things. So I attract the kind of people that understand it. Plus my coaching meetings are 50 minutes. So if I have to talk to my kid's school for 3 minutes in between, I have a 10-minute buffer. We can make up the time so my client's not being screwed by it. And thankfully it doesn't happen that often, but the more time you spend with people that understand priorities and emergencies, the nicer everything is going to go. But it all comes back to you protecting your days off, because if you keep overriding it, then your staff is going to follow your lead where you want to try to tell people this thing, but you won't really honor it. So you need to do what you say you're going to do, and then they will follow. And number 10, this is like weirdly my favorite one. Use the discomfort as data, right? I have never done crack. I probably should go without saying. That being said, I imagine the feeling is sort of like when my gut tells me something is supposed to be a certain way and our KPIs match it, right? Like I imagine that intersection of my gut thinks this is the case, my KPIs agree, similar to what it feels like to do really serious drugs. This is the opposite of that, but for the same purpose, right? Use discomfort as data. So if every Sunday night you are getting the Sunday scaries and your gut feels terrible, ask yourself why. Like, what am I concerned about for tomorrow? What are the issues, right? Normally it's money. I'm concerned about checking the bank account in the morning and not seeing enough money, something along those lines. So then you put the systems in place to make sure that happens. You put your clients on auto charge. You increase your marketing so you have a more consistent flow of cash. You figure out, how to overcome that, but use that discomfort for you. If you're doing a task and you get that feeling, for me, it's taxes. I hate I don't do my taxes. I hate being involved in taxes in any way, shape, or form. I know I have to be, but I can make it a little bit easier. So we take our previous year's taxes. We have, I don't know if it's ChatGPT or my assistant puts it into a checklist of like, these are the things we had last year. And then my team has it for the next year. Hey, you had this, you had this, you had this. And then we see what changes. I don't know. I adjunct a course at UCF. I didn't the previous time. I was coaching trial team over here. I'm no longer doing it. Like some things will fall off. Other things will come on. Okay, I opened up a Robinhood account. Now I'm going to expect the whatever tax distribution documents from there for crypto and stocks and whatever else. Like, so the checklist gets updated, but I know it's there. So my team knows what to track. They can ask me what things are missing. I know I have those. I can send those to the accountant. The accountant can ask me for what's missing. They can fill in some of the gaps. Like, I have addressed that fear or discomfort in my gut as much as possible in those situations. All right, I think those are the most important things. I guess the last one, I'll give you a free 11th tip. Like, give yourself some grace. I've been working a 3-day week for, my kid will be 8. So probably 8 years. And for some of those days, I actually work 2 days a week. When we did our cross-country road trip, I worked basically just Mondays and Thursdays. My wife would work Tuesdays and Fridays, and then we drive usually Wednesdays and Saturdays. So like that tended to be our breakdown. And honestly, for me, 2 days a week was boring. It was not enough. That might be different now that I live in a new city, that I'm trying to find more people, hang out more often. I don't know. It's probably not something I'm going to check out because I'm very happy with the life that I live 99+% of the time. But it is an ongoing process, right? Like, this probably is not a, you go from working 70 hours a week to 40 tomorrow. This might be, you go from working 70 hours a week to 60, and then you put 3 or 4 hours back on your plate to design systems to get down to 55, to put another hour on your plate to get down, like, it might be something where you stagger it and then you stay on top of it, right? Like, I tried Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I hated it. I went to Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. If there was some issue there, I would change again. Like, just give yourself that grace to understand it's an ongoing process. At the end of the day, all of us are going to die, but our obituary is not going to say, hey, there was this one day where so-and-so made a decision that they never, ever violated or changed or updated. Like, I don't know what percentage of people get that in their obituary. Instead, you have this overarching idea that you're going towards. Hopefully it's more flexibility and freedom while still running a better business. Hopefully that comes in there somewhere. Jordan Ostroff did a really good job empowering his employees and had a zest for life. Mine opens with, Jordan Ostroff had a zest for life until about 8 p.m., at which point he wanted to start going to bed. That is me in a nutshell, right? I'm not telling you that you need to do a 13-month cross-country road trip. I'm not telling you that you need to take your dad to Iceland for a week. I'm not telling you to do any of those things. I'm telling you, you deserve the opportunity to have the flexibility and freedom to live the life you want and actually have a life instead of just being business. So please, follow my logic, learn from my mistakes, grab these tips, and get yourself into a better life than you ever have. And obviously, if you still need more help and you want one-on-one coaching to do it faster, to do it better, to take the next steps, I'm here. Reach out. In the meantime, I want to leave you with this, that 3-day work week is not about freedom later. It's about building a business that doesn't need you everywhere, that doesn't need you every day, that is actually scalable. If your presence is required for the survival of your business, you don't have a business, you have a job. It might be a fun job. It might be a well-paid job, but it is a business. And I will be the first person to tell you, I don't have a coaching business. I have a coaching job, but at the same time, I don't have a lawyer job. I have a law firm business. So, you can find the things that make the most sense for you. For me, it's the fact that I enjoy coaching, and I did not enjoy being a lawyer in terms of the life that it afforded me. But with a coach, I do. And I like being able to dive into other law firm owners' problems and hear about them and give them that advice and think through the process without having to build a system that created that process from scratch in the first place. Working less didn't make me lazy by any means. It forced me to become a better leader. It forced me to become a better delegator. It forced me to become a better mentor. It forced me to become a better business owner. And while doing all those things, it let me actually enjoy my life. I cannot stress that enough. Not only do I like the person that I have become, I like the life that has been afforded to that person. Maybe that's the right grammar, maybe it's not, but I hope you'll appreciate that. And I hope you'll follow me on this journey, right? I think all of us have the opportunity to be happy and deserve to be happy. It takes some effort. It takes some systems. It takes some thought process. So I'm excited to see you back here next week for next episode. In the meantime, please carve out the time right now. Even if it's 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week to work on your business, even if it's stopping bookings from happening 1 day a week, you might still work, but you just know you'll be able to control the work. Something like that is going to be a huge jump towards you ultimately living the life you've always wanted and having the business that you need to get you there, right? Like, I help law firm owners run the firm that they've always wanted while living a life that's even better. And I know you can do the same for yourself.